Good morning and welcome. I'm Matt Lisle, and today is Monday, June 15th. This is episode 11 of the Coffee with Coach Lisle show, where I help parents, coaches, and athletes around the world tackle the challenges of life and athletics. So the first 10 episodes of this show were live on Facebook, and today is the first day we're going on YouTube Live, so we'll give it a test drive and see what you think. If you're just tuning in, let me know where you're from, where you're tuning in from around the world this morning, or maybe the afternoon. So let me know if you're here, again, what you're drinking this morning and where you're drinking it, and good morning and thanks for tuning in. If you've been a fan of this show so far, and want to catch more of my content on YouTube, click that subscribe button below and hit that little bell next to it for reminders, and I'll owe you a cup of coffee. So good morning, everybody. It's great to see everybody. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Mike, again. Larry, good morning from Missouri again. I appreciate it. I know I see a lot of you who are have been longtime listeners for the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate that, and having some Diet Coke this morning. DJ, good morning from Utah. Thank you. And again, guys, so if you're just tuning in, you're just settling in, one of the goals for today is going to be 100 likes, 100 YouTube likes, okay? That's going to be the goal we're going to set for today. And if we get to 100 likes, I am going to send a signed copy of my book, Dear Coach, to one lucky winner. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button below. Let's get to 100 likes today, and I'll send a signed copy of my book. Again, good morning, everybody. John Moore, welcome back from North Carolina, having a vanilla cappuccino. Nice. I could definitely use one of those this morning. So, again, thanks for tuning in. As you're just getting settled in, today's starting lineup will lead off with a question for all parents this morning. And then I'm going to share a story of a mother-daughter bully team. And our main topic of the day is going to be what it really takes to play in college. I'm going to give you a real talk on that. And as always, we'll do a Q&A and our final segment of the show where I'll start to share some advice from my experience as a coach and parent to get you going through your day. So again, good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Charity, good morning. Good to see you guys. So glad you made the YouTube switch. Thanks. I appreciate that. Again, if you're just tuning in, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button if you want to get reminders of the show. And we're trying to get to 100 likes. And I'm looking up at my scoreboard, and it shows we've got 12 likes this morning. So we're trying to get to 100. We're off to a good start. So let's get into our next thing today. So the question of the morning for parents today is, when watching your kid play, where do you stand or sit at games? Okay, that's question number one. And then the follow-up question is, where do you stand, sit, move when your son or daughter is not performing well in the game? Okay, so in the game, are you up against the fence? Are you sitting in the stands? Are you like my dad when he wasn't coaching me? My dad would be sitting far away behind the fence, away from all the other parents. That was his move. And then, what is your go-to move when your kid is struggling? Like, are you the one who's yelling from the stands? You're sitting there quietly and nervously. Do you try and go talk to them? Are you that parent? What do you do? And do you walk away? This is a shame-free zone, so feel free to be honest, okay? And I just remember when my dad wasn't coaching me, and once high school started, he was always the dad that was on the other side of the fence over there. So I want to hear from you guys this morning. What kind of sports parent are you when you're watching the game? Where do you sit? And all that stuff. And I thought that would be a really good question this morning to see. Kind of just what kind of sports parent you are when you're watching a game. It's always fun to see. So thank you guys. Good morning to Nick and everybody else this morning. I appreciate it. Good morning from Iowa, coach, and everyone else. High school softball game starting today. That's awesome. Opening day is always one of the funnest days ever as a coach, so that's really awesome. Pablo says he sits far away. He sits very far away to see, so that's pretty funny. Anybody else, where do you like to sit? I know for me, when I watch my kids, I kind of like to sit away from the parents a little bit. The parents kind of drive me crazy the whole time, so I kind of sit in a lawn chair on the side, and I just like to enjoy the game. I just enjoy watching my kids. I don't really yell much, maybe a little cheer here and there, but I'm not really again, I'm not a big socializer when it comes to a game. So, again, the question of the day was, What kind of a parent are you when you watch the games? Are you the one in the stands? Are you yelling? So I'm curious to see. Also, if you're just tuning in, one thing that's exciting that happened last week is the Coffee with Coach Lisle show that you're watching right now is also on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify Podcasts. So if you don't like waking up early in the morning, or you don't like Facebook and YouTube and to watch this show, you can always catch it on the podcast. And if you listen to it on the podcast, let me know. And I appreciate everyone who has done that. It's been taken off with that, so that's great. Let's see. Mike says, I am typically doing game changer, so I try to be as close to the dugout or backstop area as possible. Keeping score keeps me quiet. That's funny. I know a lot of parents that say the same thing. Let's see here. Charity says, I am in a camp chair with some of my other moms closest to the dugout. I love all of it, but only positive words come out of my mouth. I hear that. That's all right. One of the funny things, I always see these memes. I saw this meme, official travel ball dad stance up against the fence right there in their cargo shorts and their baseball caps. That's the official travel ball dad stance. We call this the official travel ball mom stance. Okay, tank top, arms folded, trying to hide, getting stressed out. Pretty common look right there. And then again, you got the dad up in the corner of the stands, hiding from everybody and making comments. So I thought those were some pretty funny ones. So I'm just curious again from you guys this morning, where do you guys like to sit? John says he likes to sit away from the chatter, that's for sure. Larry says, I cannot sit during the game. I try to stay close to the field. I have found that I just need to be their parent during the game, and we can talk about the game afterwards. Okay, so that's something that I know a lot of people do too as well. So if you're just tuning in, I appreciate you. We made the switch from Facebook to YouTube this morning, and we'll see how that goes. We're trying to get to 100 likes. My scoreboard shows 16 likes this morning. If we get to 100, I'm going to send a signed copy of my book, Dear Coach, to a random winner. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. Love to hear, if you're just tuning in, I'd love to hear where you're from and where you're watching this from. We've got people from all over the United States, and we've had some different countries as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. And our topics this morning, we talked about a little bit about what kind of a parent you are at the games. And then we're going to really get into, after our Dear Coach segment today, we're going to get into our main topic of the day. So let's talk about today's Dear Coach segment a little bit, okay? So our Dear Coach segment of the day. If you don't know about the Dear Coach book, the Dear Coach book is a book that I wrote last summer with crazy parent emails. They're real emails and stories from parents behaving badly on the field and stuff. And so I read a story from that book every day. It's been incredible, really fun. A lot of you have gone out and purchased this book, and I really appreciate it. I've seen it been climbing up the bestsellers list in sports and coaching the last 2 weeks. So thank you guys to do that. Thank you to everybody who left a 5-star review too. We've got a lot of great reviews on that book, and it's been awesome. And 100% of the proceeds go to the Base Foundation. You can check them out at thebase.org. So we're excited about that. So today's story is going to be a good one. It's about a mother and daughter bully team, I call. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So this morning's Dear Coach segment, I just want to read it to you guys. Let's see here. It says, Dear Coach Lisle, I once emailed a parent about her child teasing another player on the team and that it was an ongoing issue. I explained that I had to talk to her about it, but she was still doing it, and I would have to start taking away her playing time. The parent emailed me back that night and said, that's just a normal part of growing up for girls. Every child does it. Sincerely, parents are worse than the kids. And if you've read my book at all, you see that I've always got what I call Coach Lisle's commentary in the book. And I want to be able to just read you what I wrote in the book right here. And it says, while most of the emails in this book are at least a little bit humorous, this one makes me sad. If I received this email, my first thought would probably be something like, I see where she gets it from. But after that, I think the coach has a responsibility to protect other team members and the team culture as a whole. There needs to be a zero-tolerance policy on bullying and clearly communicated consequences if and when that policy is broken. In this instance, I'd suggest the player be separated from the team at both practices and games. If the consequence for disruptive behavior is running laps during practice or a conditioning type of punishment, that player has now disrupted practice again. On top of that, they've received special attention from the coach. I think special attention should be given to players offering their best effort and playing with great attitudes. Along with all of this, I'd strongly consider implementing something like a 3-strike policy. After the 3rd strike, a player is completely removed from the team. And like I said, there's a lot of behaviors that we can deal with as coaches that are okay. And I'll tell you right now, bullying is not one of them. I have just a 0 tolerance policy for that. Treating other players that way. So, I would say most of the stories in the Dear Coach book are very funny. Some crazy parent stories, but that one to me is just kind of sad. And you can see again, like your first reaction is, "Oh man, I can see where she gets that from," with the mom's response, and that's probably the case. But at the same time, we want to solve this problem. So, again, thanks everybody. Nino, thanks for tuning in from Germany. So good afternoon. It's got to be later in the day there, so appreciate you tuning in and hanging out with us this morning. That was our Dear Coach segment of the day, and I thought that was really good. So let's see here. Let's get into our main topic of the day. Our main topic of the day today is, I want to have some real talk and share with you what it really takes to play in college. As a college coach, I have attended many camps and showcases over the years. And at the end of most of these camps and showcases, one thing that happens is that athletes are allowed to ask the coaches questions in a group setting, okay? And they always ask, how do I get recruited? How do I stand out? What are the things you like? And a lot of the coaches respond with, hustle, heart, grades, and all that stuff. And those are great things. But I'll tell you what, I've gone to so many of these things, and about a year ago, I finally kind of just, not snapped, but I kind of just said, okay, this is enough. So here's what you need to understand. What I said to them is this. What stands out to me is skill, period. If you want to play at a high level college, skill is the number one thing that stands out, okay? So for me, the bare minimum is attitude, effort, hustle. You do not want to play in college if you can't even do those things. So having your best effort, having a good attitude, being coachable, hustling, that's the bare minimum to get into the door. Okay? Everyone's got to have that. But if you want to play at a high level, you want to play in college, you have to actually be good. I give the examples like at a baseball showcase. If there's 200 kids there, and you throw 95 miles an hour and you're one of the top kids there, you're getting noticed. You're gonna stand out. But if you're in the middle of the pack, if you're number 100 out of the 200 kids there and there's not that many coaches there or only high-level coaches, you're in trouble. That showcase is not a good thing for you. That camp setting is not good for you. You just kind of lit some money on fire. So to me, that's really not the best way to do it. So you have to understand that for college coaches, especially at the high level, skill is the thing that stands out. In baseball and softball, it's power bats and power arms. So those are the things that you need to see. In a big camp format, the big schools are seeing the top 1% of the kids there. So evaluate where you are in these groups. If you go to a camp or a showcase and you see like you're in the middle of the pack, that can be okay, but you need to evaluate what your expectation level is. And again, if you're not in that top level of that camp, you need to go back and focus on development. And I can tell you right now, so many of you are spending so much money on showcases and camps and exposure and not enough time and money on development. And I will tell you, I've coached at every level: NAIA, D3, D2, D1, SEC, Pac-12. I've coached at every level there is. And there is a place for you if you want to play college sports, okay? Whether it's NAIA or D3, if you're not in that top level, that's okay. But you have to set your expectations at that and focus on camps, exposure, and things for those coaches. But if you are in the middle of the pack or the bottom 50% of that camp, and your expectation is to go to a top-level school, then get out of that camp right now, go work on your development, get better, and then come back to the camp, okay? But if you're saying, hey, you know what, I'm willing to go anywhere. I have a younger brother who played football and baseball at a D3, and he was an all-state player in football. And he was willing to go anywhere, went to Minnesota to a Division III school there, had a great career there, and he set his expectations at, hey, I'm willing to go anywhere, and so that's a great place for him in those camps. But if his expectation was only to play D1 and went to those camps and showcases, he would have burned a lot of money up. So my best advice to kids when it comes to real talk of what it takes to play in college is focus more time on development than you do on exposure and camps, unless you're in that very top level percent. Figure out how to get to that top level percent, and to me, that's with practice and development, not in showcases and exposures and camps and things like that, unless those camps are helping you get better. Okay, and again, so just you need to have expectations, real expectations of what your level is, real expectations and evaluation around you. If you look around you and again, you're not one of the top players that showcase, go back and develop. And to me, again, if you want to know what coaches are looking for at camps, they can tell you all they want. Hustle and hard work and all those things, great. Being a good teammate, absolutely. You have to have all those things, and all those things are very important. But if you don't have actual skills, you can't. You're not good at the game. There's no coach that's going to say, you know what, he had a really great hustle, really good heart, terrible player, but I'm going to recruit him anyway. You've got to work on your skills. You've got to work on your skills. So that's my best advice of the day in regards to what it takes to really play in college. And I can tell you right now, I've told this story many times. I go to camps all around the world. I speak at these camps and I ask the kids, who wants to play in college? Almost every kid raises their hand. And I tell them, if you really wanted to play in college, you would actually love the process of trying to get there. And I can tell you that 50% of the kids, at least, that I talk to, their parents have to force them to go practice. Their parents have to force them to get off the screen, the iPad, their Instagram, and go practice. And to me, that's athletes who don't really want to play in college. To me, the kids that get up early in the morning, they go train after school, unprompted, but without their parents telling them what to do, those are the ones that have the best chance at playing in college. And it's not the best example, but I can tell you right now, 30% of Major League Baseball professional players are from Latin America, and I can tell you, I know a lot of Latin American kids who wake up and 8 hours a day are playing baseball. Okay, I'm not suggesting that there's not enough hours in the day here, and you still got other responsibilities to take care of. But the reason why they are so good is they spend so much time on development. Okay, you can't spend 20 minutes a day at something and say, you know what, I want to play at the highest level. I want to go play in the SEC or Pac-12 because it's not realistic if you're not really putting the time in. And I'm not talking about time hitting the exposure circuit, the showcase circuit, or anything like that. I'm talking about real time on development. So that's my best advice on what it really takes to play in college. And so as we head to our Q&A time today, if you have any questions regarding that in Q&A, I'd love to help you answer those questions for you regarding what it really takes. For Q&A time today, again, you can ask anything you want. And we will we'll get into that. And so that's my advice on that. So I'm going to put 10 minutes on the shot clock. We're going to go to Q&A time. And let's get going with our time this morning. All right, the shot clock has started. If you have any questions, let's get those questions going. We're trying to get to 100 likes today. If we get to 100 likes, I'm going to share a signed copy of my book, Dear Coach. We're at 22 right now, so make sure if you're tuning in, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more from me. And as we get into our Q&A time this morning, let's get some good questions. So anything's on the table for the most part, anything family friendly, coaching, sports, athletics, you name it, and I'll try to get to it this morning. John asks, how does a team pick the best showcases for their skill set level, or just rely on camps to show skills? I think that's one of the jobs of the coach that you have. You've got to do a really good job of doing the research of the tournaments that you're playing. You know, for me, I want to play at the highest level that I can, that my team can hang. Okay, if I go to a tournament and we get destroyed and can't win a single game, that's not going to be a good look for my program. But if I can go to a tournament where I know lots of college coaches are going to be there, I know that the level of play, my opponent's going to have really good team there. So for me, the strategy that I always had was, because I always had blue-collar travel ball teams, and I wanted to play the team that had like all these college commits, or as one of the top teams, because I knew the college coaches are going to come to watch that team. Well, if I can beat that team and hang with that team and showcase my players, that can be huge for getting on the radar as that happens. I can tell you, my uncle played the Chicago White Sox organization, and you may know the name Tom Candiotti. Tom Candiotti played professional baseball for a very long time, is an announcer now. And when he was in high school, they were actually scouting a catcher. He went to throw a bullpen, and they ended up signing Tom Candiotti as a pitcher, and they didn't sign the catcher. So, like I said, always try to see if you can get to that level, play at the highest level you can without, getting embarrassed and stuff like that. So, Mike says a lot has to do with the knowledge of the types of camps. Know if you're going to an all skills or an elite camp. Exactly. Just making sure that when you sign up for a camp, if you're going to a college camp, for example, if you're going to a college camp, they have all skills camps. They're just open to everybody. And I can tell you, not a lot of kids are signed out of that. It happens, but it's just not that often. And then if you elite camp, if you see an elite camp or get invited to elite camp or go to elite camp, and you can hang with the top level kids in those camps, that is a really good chance to be seen by the college coaches. So, Nino asks, Coach, looking at international kids, would you see the camps as a better chance for such kids to develop and judge where they are compared to U.S. players? Yeah, that can be one way to do it. I would tell you, if I have international players, I would use social media aggressively to showcase their skills, their data, whether it's miles per hour in baseball or softball, things like that. I would try to showcase their skills and their data as much as I can on social media. That would be one of the ways that I would do it. If you're just tuning in, we're in our Q&A time. Earlier we talked about what it takes to really play in college. And so get your questions in this morning, and we'll do our best to do that. Nino asks, if you have one suggestion for an international kid recruiting process, would it be, again, to me, it would be aggressive on social media, making really good videos with data to back it up, not just the video itself, like showing whether it's times or miles per hour, depending on whatever sport it is. That would be the biggest thing that I would see. Pablo asks, what do you think about kids just want to play in the minor and not college? Do they go to the same showcases, or what should be the approach? I think you're asking about professional baseball, maybe. I think it's the same approach. I mean, there aren't going to be pro scouts at a lot of college showcases, but when it comes to travel ball, there are a ton of pro scouts out there and stuff like that. So that's a good question, but it would be the same approach. I would just approach it like, hey, I want to get seen by the best coaches if they are really that good. That would be the approach I use. So. Again, good morning, everybody. 7:24 a.m. this morning. I appreciate everybody tuning in. We're at 27 likes this morning. I appreciate that very much. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If we get to 100 likes, I'm going to share a signed copy of my book, Dear Coach. And again, if you're just tuning in, we moved the show from Facebook Live over to YouTube Live. Just to try out this new format. We'll see how it goes. We'll give it a couple days and then decide where we want to stay going forward. So thanks again for tuning in. We're in the Q&A session. There's just a few minutes left. So if you have any other questions this morning, let's get them in, and let's see what we've got going this morning. Again, thank you. And if you're just tuning in, I would love to hear where you're from. Where are you tuning in from? We've got people from Germany this morning, North Carolina, California, Texas, across the board. We've got people tuning in all over the country and the world, and that's awesome. So thank you. We've got just a couple minutes left in our Q&A time this morning. The questions today are going to be anything you want, but we're also talked a lot about what it really takes to play in college and play at the next level. So we'll get to a couple more questions this morning. Good morning to Braden in Pennsylvania. Thank you. Coach, what is the biggest mistake parents do in the recruiting process? To me, it's getting wrapped up in comparison. comparing other kids' timeline to your kid's timeline, worrying about the timeline. To me, that's the biggest issue that I see in the recruiting process. A lot of parents really just start panicking about the timeline and worried about, oh, everyone on my team is committed already, or I know so-and-so committed to a program already. That's the biggest mistake that I see. And then the second biggest mistake, again, is, like I said, spending all this money on all the showcases and trying to get exposure instead of spending money and time on development. So to me, those are the biggest mistakes that I see parents make. Don't worry about everybody else's timeline. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Focus on your kid and their process and the timeline. You always have time. Even if your kid is a junior college athlete, you have time. So, good morning to Rocket. That's great seeing you guys. Jason, Austin, one of my favorite towns, some of my favorite barbecue in the world. Don from Fremont, one of my favorite places, not too far from where I live now. So thank you. Ruben says, my daughter is having a hard time getting noticed. We now have made the move to play travel ball in Central California to give her a better opportunity. Do you think this will help her? Yes. So getting on a good travel ball team does really help. If you can get playing time on a really good travel team that you know is playing in really good tournaments, that's your best. To me, that's one of the best ways of getting exposure, if you will, and getting seen. To me, though, if she's going to ride the bench on that team, that's not a good move for you, and I would go back to working on development. But if you can get on a really good travel ball team that you know is playing in really high-end tournaments and getting seen by a lot of good coaches, and you're getting playing time, I think that's a really good move for you and your daughter. I think you'll see that you're going to get a lot more attention there. Andrew says, do you think someone would have a chance in a D1 school if you're just starting your freshman year in high school with no offers yet? I've been really posting my clips and training vids and emails. Absolutely. I have seen kids get committed and signed that got no attention until their senior year. And that proves my point that I talked about just a few minutes ago. Don't worry about the timeline. Freshmen? Are you kidding me? A lot of Division I schools aren't even watching freshmen. For me, I'm starting to pay attention on sophomores and juniors. So every school is different. And even in the SEC and Pac-12, and kids develop at different ages. I know kids that hit their peak as a freshman, and I know a lot of kids that didn't peak till their junior, senior year. A great example is I coached a kid 15 years ago that wasn't that great as a junior. Between his junior and senior year, as a pitcher, he jumped to 95 miles an hour, and after senior year, got signed for $500,000 as a pitcher. And nowadays would probably have been $3 or $4 million. And I'm telling you right now, zero college attention his junior year. So don't get caught up in the timeline. Freshmen, sophomores, if you haven't got any attention yet, focus on your development, get better, focus on being the best that you can. Worry about the recruiting and timeline later. Let's get to one last question this morning. James asked, do you recommend an at-home batting cage? I don't want to burn my son out, but it would be much easier to get good cuts. And I would say it really depends on your kid. Like, if you feel like they're actually going to use it, absolutely. I would love it. I had a cage in our backyard for a little bit a few years ago. To me, if your kid is passionate about the sport and you think they'll really utilize it, batting cage is awesome. Same with anything. But I think the question my wife and I have all the time when we buy our kids things like trampolines, are they going to actually use it, or after 2 weeks stop using it? For us, we bought this huge trampoline that was really expensive almost 3 years ago. Our kids still use it every day, and so to me, that was a great purchase. So to me, before I was to buy a batting cage, I would make sure that my kids are really going to utilize it anytime I'm going to spend a lot of money on anything. So thank you again to everybody who has tuned in this morning. We're wrapping up our Q&A time. Good morning to Brewer in Los Angeles, Trish in Rochester, New York. I've spent many times in Rochester, New York, at Delmonico's, one of my favorite steak places, and there's a Pittsburgh sandwich place in Rochester. I forget the name of that I really, really enjoy. I've had some really good food in Rochester, New York. Jeremy says good morning from Las Vegas. Good morning to you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And as we wrap up Q&A this morning, I want to share some advice to all the coaches out there. And this advice I want to share to you guys this morning says, coaches, you can be both tough and demanding and fun-loving. You don't have to choose one or the other. I want to read this to you guys one more time. Coaches, you can be both tough, demanding, and fun-loving. You don't have to choose one or the other. And to me, I just want you guys to understand that I think that I see a lot of coaches that are really demanding and demeaning, and they think that having fun or being fun is two different spectrums. They are not mutually exclusive. You can do both of those things, and I think the best coaches do a great job of both. For me, if you come to watch me at practice, I'm very demanding. I have very high expectations of what we're doing at practice, but I'm also goofing around, having a lot of fun, dancing to the music. We have music going at practice the whole time, and a lot of dad jokes, and we have a really good time. But at the same time, it is a very difficult practice. I'm very demanding, and my expectations are very high of what I want to get done in that practice. So I just want to leave you guys with that today. Before you guys leave this morning, a couple things. If you want to connect with me more, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel right here. You can follow me on Instagram at Coach Lisle. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Coach Lisle. Love to connect with you guys on social media. You can follow me there. I share a lot of content on all of those places. And so I appreciate you guys tuning in. Before you leave this morning, the thing I want to tell you guys, hey, I had a lot of fun this morning checking out this new YouTube format. We'll see how YouTube Live goes. We might go back to Facebook Live next week. We'll see what happens, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about athlete training and health. And I can tell you right now how much of a huge difference it makes, especially if you have a kid in that 10 to 19-year-old range, okay, and how training and health and, I'm going to teach you guys a lot of stuff, how to get the best out of their performance with those things, because it's not just skill set, it's not just mindset, but there are some ways that you can train and from a health standpoint that can really give your kids a leg up on other teams and kids and to really get their development going. So now it's time to say goodbye, but I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. Now go out and win the day.